Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning to you. It's me. I made it through another weekend. Can you believe it? Yes, I did. Loren Michaels here is with you, and so happy to be here. Welcome to Monday's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I had a wonderful weekend. Those liars known as meteorologists, thank God I didn't listen to them. They said it was going to rain, rain, rain. Ooh, it's supposed to rain, rain, rain. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week here. How's it looking or shaping up in your neck of the woods? I didn't let it stop me. I always plan what I'm going to do anyway. Half of my itinerary is for indoors, the other half is outdoors, and I swap it out accordingly. So 2 years ago, my husband Brian and I, we had a brand new deck put on our house, and you can't stain it or anything until 2 years after you've done it. So that's this summer. So I started, doing that staining this weekend, and boy, yeah, I love that work. Brian went to the botanical gardens with his bestie, Miss Margaret, yesterday, and they said it was so hot and humid. It was beautiful, but it was kind of difficult because of the humidity and stuff, having to wear their masks. They would pull it down to breathe a little bit and then put it back up. So what'd you do this weekend? Did you get out? How do you feel about this social distancing now? And slowly but surely, well, we started phase 4 here in the Chicagoland area. Naperville, to be exact, well, all of Illinois. We started the phase 4 process Friday, I believe it was. And the only thing that I'm really looking forward to, but because I go to the health club at Edwards, which is a hospital here, so I'm hoping, I don't know, I'm torn because of it being a hospital. I'm like, well, they're all on the front line. The people that work there, they go to the gym, but then it's a lot of old people, which probably won't be in there. I don't know. I'm gonna have to go in. I'm this kind of person. I already know. I'm going in like this. If I see anything that even remotely looks like something that I could catch, I'm out the door. And that's that. What is that bell? That's the bell of purpose. It's new to season 4. So if you've never been here, which I don't know how that could be, don't tell anybody that, they'll laugh at you. It means that when our guest or one of you says something or throws something on the screen that is like, woo, now that's a good one. I'm going to ring that bell to let people know, get behind it. Send some hearts, some emojis, some love. Let's get involved. You know it. We all want to be a part of something greater than ourselves. Some of us just have a hard time admitting it. But I'll admit to this. This is my gal. This is my sidekick, my assistant, Miss Lucy McGillicuddy Ricardo. She's been here all 4 years. Welcome her to the show, won't you please? And while my guest today, Miss Susie Q. Baker, is talking, I'm going to eat my Chiquita breakfast. And we are streaming live, so I can do that. I can eat my breakfast because we are streaming live across the following platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Roku, Android, Amazon Fire Stick, Apple TV, and of course, from our home base out in beautiful sunny Phoenix, Arizona, that's E360 TV Live. So, here we go. Who is Suzanne? Susie Q. Superlative. Sulicious Baker. Who is she? She is, I'm so excited to have her here today. When I first reached out to her, she's a writer. She works and writes for the Chicago newspaper. I'll let her tell you about that because I don't know if I can mention it, so I just say Chicago newspaper. And she also works for the Naperville Sun. And if you look behind me on my wall of acclaim, you'll see right there, sitting there with the little pom-pom above it, that's Sue's article. Because Sue interviewed me right back at the very beginning when I was just I had a bonnet and I was drinking from, I was drinking Infamil. I was on formula. I was a baby in this business 4 years ago, and Sue interviewed me, and so I thought, wouldn't it be great to turn the tables, but really to thank her for all the wonderful things that she did for us. Now, I know I heard a corporate jet landing somewhere out on the cul-de-sac. I'm sure it's her. Sue? Oh, well, hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Just dandy. Loving the hanging outside here.
I know. You got me thinking maybe I need to put my set out there for a little bit for maybe the month of July and try to do. But then what do I do if it rains?
Well, right. And then if it's a little humid and like it is kind of this morning, you'll be having like sweat rolling
Yeah.
down your
Yeah, I don't need that. I don't need any trouble looking bad. Trust me. Well, Suzanne, Sue Baker, it's so nice just to have you here. First timer here on Bathrobe Moments, but not the first time you and I have sat across from each other where a bunch of questions were going back and forth.
I know. Well, then we could actually sit across from each other.
Yeah, remember that? When you could actually go out and see people, their whole face? Yes. So a lot has happened. What's been going on in Sue's life?
Oh, just the whole trying to deal with this whole pandemic has just been an adventure.
I'm sure. Now, Sue, you write for 2 newspapers. Tell us about you. How long have you been writing? How did you get your start?
I'm a journalism major. I went to school in Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky University.
Oh, there's a show in and of itself.
Oh,
I'm writing
yeah.
that. Eastern Kentucky. Okay, I got a lot of jokes for you this morning then. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and yes, we did wear shoes. That's
You
usually
did?
the one. Yeah.
Okay, now I know your husband's out there on the deck. I saw you in the green room talking to him, so he's not far away. He wouldn't by chance be a first cousin as well, would he?
No.
Tell us you got jokes.
Oh yeah. Well, we have some too about that, but that's another story too.
No, it's funny. What you should have done was oh God, no. Of course he's not my cousin. He's my brother. Okay, so, and what's your husband's name?
Wayne.
Hi, Wayne. Nice to see you, even though we can't see you. So go ahead. So you went to school in Kentucky.
Yeah, and then I came back home and got a job in suburban journalism and has stuck in journalism kind of throughout ever since.
Ever since.
30 years almost.
Wow. And the reason I asked that question because, a lot of people have those majors, but, they're not, it didn't turn out the way they thought it would. Let's put it that way.
Yes. And
Right.
I wouldn't recommend it these days.
No? Oh, because of why? Internet?
It just the changes, and just newsrooms are just paring down. They're making them smaller, and there's so many options for getting news, which is a whole nother, problem.
Right.
I think the way how people get their news, because people aren't getting their news from journalists anymore.
Where are they getting it?
Facebook, social media,
Oh, yeah,
internet.
the Gladys Kravitz syndrome. Remember her
Yeah.
from Bewitched, the nosy neighbor, the gossip lady?
Yeah.
Right. So, I'm glad you said that because that sets up my first question for you. Well, not my first question, but the first real question. I would like to know, since I remember when I first heard about you, they said, oh, you got to get interviewed by Scoop Baker. And I said, who's Scoop Baker? Where's he at? She goes, no, he's a she. Scoop Susan Baker. So, Sue, you have a nose for news. Tell me this. Talk about this. In this current day and age, not just with Corona and the civil unrest, but the things in Washington. One of the terms we've all become used to hearing, which I don't know, is it a real thing? And I speak of 2 little words. Fake news. Talk about that. And how do you know? Do you have some kind of sensor that goes off? Ding, 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 ding. Fake news. Beware, Will Robinson. Fake news. How do you know?
Well, news could be anything. That's the thing, News, paving the street out in front of your house. That's news. If news just means something that you don't know. I mean, it's new information. Now, if you say fake news, it has to do with sourcing and where people are getting that information from.
So,
and
well, we as laymen would consider news to be verifiable or verified. Truth. You expect it to be the truth, but that's not always the case, I'm understanding.
Well, where did you get your information? I mean, if you're an ethical journalist, you're going to go to the source and ask them what is the deal. And then if there's another opinion, you're going to get that other side. You want to get all this, everyone, you want to talk to all the witnesses who saw what was going on or have an understanding.
Mm-hmm. So
And
are
if
you
you
able
only get one side, that's not really ethical, is it?
Well, ethical isn't a term that applies to a lot of people that are prominent in the news world nowadays, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
But I'm not going there this morning because for a number of reasons. So tell me though, how do we? Okay, I know. Here we go. Let's play a little game. So, what is your favorite newspaper? Better be one of them you work for.
Well, obviously the Naperville Sun.
Yay! Good answer.
Chicago Tribune.
Chicago Tribune. Yes, she writes for that one. That was the other paper I wouldn't mention.
Well, we are owned by the Chicago Tribune, so we're like a suburban part of the Chicago Tribune.
Like
so
the little sister.
We're the little sister. Yes.
Okay. So
or stepchild.
You're right. Cinderella, get back to work. So
yes.
So Sue, what has been? Have you been in just newspaper? Or do you write for articles, magazines, blogs? What other kind of writing do you do? And have you ever?
It's been journalism, community journalism, since the beginning. So, like covering like what's going on in the smaller communities, because those people, there are other places that can do the bigger picture, but we want to localize and tell what's going on in our own backyards and the neighborhoods, and I think that's an important part, and I think that voice is getting lost a lot of times because it's consumed by everybody talks about what's going on in the bigger picture, but we want to know what's your taxes. Most of the bulk of your taxes are from local sources.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this. I'm eating my breakfast. I hope you don't mind.
That's fine.
Okay, because we're just having a little thing here. And is that some of that infused tea you were drinking earlier?
Yes.
That's a fancy cup you switched to. It's really pretty.
Yes. It's had that for years.
So let's go back to when you were writing my story.
Okay.
I always pictured you like this. Not now. What's your husband's name? Wayne?
Wayne.
Yeah, not now, Wayne. I'm on a hot story.
Well, no. Yeah, that might be a little bit.
I know, I dream about it. I thought that was such a big deal, and I still do. You see, it's hanging on my wall, and I was so honored because it's different when you're getting things from outside of where you live and all this. It's almost like a second life, but when it's something right there where you lay your head, it's very special. And having been new at the time, it was extra special for me to get introduced to my community. And now I'm in Rotary, and I know a bunch of people here. And back then, I was really just trying to get interviewed to make a friend or two, which I did in you. So, in case you guys are just joining, you've somehow slipped on a universal banana peel and landed in the middle of Bathrobe Moments, and I'm glad you did. I'm Loren Michaels here, so welcome to the show. My guest today is Suzanne Baker. She's a writer for the newspapers here in the Chicagoland area. She actually interviewed me about 4 years ago when I was first starting. So Suzanne, tell me this. Back in your early days, we're playing myth or fiction. I mean, myth or fiction or truth. Truth or myth. You pick. So is it true that writers for newspapers are always under deadline?
Yes.
Oh.
In some form or another, yes.
So have you ever not made a deadline?
Oh, yeah.
What happens if you don't make it?
You have to go to your editor and say, I'm just not going to have this story done by whatever time.
Okay. Now, have you ever had a story that they killed?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know if they killed it, but I had to rework it.
Oh, so they severely maimed it?
there have been things that, in
So
the
let in
early
the
years,
so
we'll
what's
say.
that like, Suzanne, when you know that you're telling the story the way it needs to be told, and then someone else goes, listen, we got friends in high places who said, we're not going there, we're not going to talk about. So they ask you to give a shade of the truth, but not the whole truth. Is that
Oh
let's
no, that's never happened.
That's Do you think that happens where ethics sometimes are compromised from the perspective of the writer because of the higher powered people saying, you can't say all that. We're not going to go there. Does that happen?
I think in some places, yes, that does happen. I can't think of a case where that has happened, where, you know, someone said, oh, yeah, we can't write about that.
Okay. So look at
I
all
mean,
you. Hi, Tamily Ballard.
there was a time with advertising where maybe the advertising and that
Yeah, and
kind of
things were different.
maybe
Well, Sue, how do you find your stories, or do your stories find you?
both.
So, people, is there a Suzanne tip line where, like, I'm like, hello, Sue Baker, you won't believe what I just saw over on Apache. Yes, that lady with the bright red hair. I mean,
I get some of those. I get emails. I get some people will call. One of the best sources are people that, like you, who I've interviewed and say, "Hey, you really got to talk to this person." And it's
okay,
amazing how you can use, how people you've talked to and you built a rapport up, feel like, oh, I can reach out to reach out to her because, she
right.
did such a, she treated me right.
Sure, of course. Now, as a writer for a newspaper, do you write just about any old thing, or are you mainly like community interest? I mean, because aren't there people who write nothing but the gory stuff? You know,
Well, technically, I'm the crime reporter for the Naperville Sun, but
there's never any
and
crime.
well, no, I mean
Yeah,
we've
there
had,
is.
yeah, we do, but I mean we don't have a whole lot of murders and things like that,
Mm-mm.
but we do have like horrible like social injustice things, like the high school kid that they posted, his friends posted his, face on Craigslist in slave for sale. So, I mean,
The
that's
what for sale?
slave for sale.
They did. I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, so there's like things like that, which is, that's just horrible. But I was able to talk, because of my relationships and with people in the community, I reached out to the mom and people in the African American community, said, "Hey, she's a very good reporter. She'll be able to tell the story." And the mom felt compelled, and I was the first person that she talked to. And
So
it took
sometimes
a lot.
you get that opportunity to right some wrongs, I would imagine.
I hope I can. I mean,
Yeah.
at least raise awareness of what some of the issues that are going on in the community.
And so I'm glad you're talking about this. I really appreciate it because these are trying times for a number of reasons, of course. But we had something here in the Naperville area a few months back before all of the George Floyd and all the obvious things with the Buffalo Wild Wings. Remember that?
Yeah.
So why are so many people surprised when they hear that? And then how much of what we saw or heard or read in the news, and I'm including television news with this and radio and all the news sources, you know how some communities don't want their unblemished reputation to go out the window. So
Right.
were you shocked when we first heard about that Buffalo Wild Wings thing? Did it surprise you, or did you already know this and we're just waiting for the splinter to come to the surface?
I was not shocked at all because I've been writing about things like that previously, I was one of the first. I think I was the first person to actually talk to the people in with the Buffalo Wild Wings.
And set
and
that up. A lot of people may not know because we're both from here. Tell people
Right.
what that was all about so they know what we're talking about.
There was a family, and they a couple of families they went out for a basketball game.
Right.
And it was one of the boys on the basketball team's birthday, and so they thought, okay, where are we going to take 20, like a dozen kids and
Right.
parents out that we're not going to be disturbing? Well, you go to Buffalo Wild Wings because you can get a big old table. It's loud, it's noisy, kids don't have to.
Right.
But then there was a problem where one of the customers apparently asked, if they kind of indicated they didn't want to sit next to this because there were African Americans and mixed race.
Had nothing
people.
to do with the noise. It had to do with the color of the people that were sat there.
Right. So the kind of woman, one of the moms was there, kind of took a photo and posted on Facebook, and
That was all she
word
wrote.
got out, and I reached
Made
out
national
to them.
news.
Well, I reached out to them and talked to them, got their story. It was like right before November, and when the story went up online, the Tribune picked it up. It went from just like a local story over that weekend. My story got picked up across the country.
I didn't know that.
Washington Post, New York papers, everywhere. It went, and it was one of the most read stories in the Chicago Tribune for like months, for a while.
Oh yeah, it was a big deal.
Because it picked up, and then by Monday, everyone else is trying to scramble to get the story, but I had,
The scoop.
I got the scoop kind of before the weekend.
I told you her name was Scoop Baker. You guys thought I was kidding. I told you. So Sue, in a situation like that, because I can't imagine that you're the only writer here in the Naperville area. How do you know where to go to find these people? How do you know? What'd you do? Find them on Facebook?
Yeah, it's a hunt. It's an internet hunt. You look, look for phone numbers. You look for it's just a hunt. You gotta know where to dig, and it takes experience learning where to look for. And Facebook is a wonderful thing, but not everybody's on Facebook. It's Twitter, looking at Instagram.
So the way that you go about getting your stories, turned into those masterpieces that they are, I imagine that it's a totally different world now than when you first came into the industry.
Oh, yeah.
Right. How did you do it back then?
Oh, it was, well, I mean, there really wasn't internet. So you kind of,
so what'd you
had
do?
to go hang out at the,
So you sat at the bar. Let's just get it out there the way. So you sat at the bar and like, buy you a drink. And then 10 minutes later, and then what'd she do? Did you have one of those little spiral pads like they show on TV and you pull out and you start?
Well, I do still have a spiral pad. I mean, I
bet you do. You have to be ready at all times.
Right. But then you just, it was a different kind of, it was mostly municipal news and tips that you got from the community that you hear.
Let me ask this. Do you feel, or has there ever been, and you can say how it was as compared to maybe it's changed and gotten better, if what I'm about to ask was ever a reality? I can't imagine it wasn't, but you can tell us a little bit in your experience. In your experiences, Sue, have you ever thought that it was slanted towards men in the journalism as a reporter? Was it easier for men to get to where they were trying to go in their career than women? And if so, has that changed since you've been inside?
Men are generally go higher up in
Like every other, okay, the usual.
right. It's the usual. It's maybe a little better than it was. I mean, there are more women editors and things like that, but it's a heavily male dominated
Right.
industry as well.
So, have you ever thought about, or have you ever written a book?
I have not. I've thought about it.
You've thought about it.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know
'cause
what I would do. You know,
Oh.
it's one of those things that like, well, what do I write? And
Right.
kind of a
other right.
cyclical-
R-I-G-H-T.
Yes.
Okay. We got a lot of rights going on here.
Yes, yeah.
We do. When we come back, we're going to take a short pause for the cause. I have some questions for Sue Baker about the things that we all want to know. We're going to ask those questions, and she's going to take your questions if you have any, because I want to find out how she feels about the George Floyd situation. So we're going to talk about that in just a couple minutes. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and our guest today is Suzanne and Wayne Baker, because Wayne is off to the side.
No, he's actually he's going to make an appearance.
He is. Hi, Wayne.
Hi, Loren.
How are you?
Good. She's leaving me completely out of this.
I know. You know.
When you were talking about journalists, people that it didn't work out for, I'm one of them. I'm an ex-journalist.
You are.
Yeah, I got out of it in the mid-'90s when we started having children because two people on journalism salaries was not going to pay the bills.
Wasn't going to pay the bills. But Sue was the one to get up, throw on that brunette or redhead wig so she could go undercover and hit the streets for those hot stories, right?
Well, she was more dedicated to it than I was, the cause, and belief in that the truth does win out. I got very cynical early on and went into sales, and now I've been chasing the almighty dollar.
So let me ask you, Wayne, how do you feel about that term we brought up earlier known as fake news? Is it real?
Well, oh yeah, because I see it on Facebook all the time. It's like Sue said, you have to question the source. Who is putting this information out there? Is it balanced? Did they ask all the right questions? Or is this biased and trying to convince you of something that didn't really happen or isn't true? Or
Right.
because the other day, I was having an argument with my in-laws about it. There was something about, it's terrible that they're tearing down these monuments to World War II when 70 years ago they beat back this dictator for your right to.
Oh,
That's not happening. I know of no World War II monuments that have come down.
Right.
In this whole, in all
Right.
of this uprising
Yeah.
protesting. That's just blatantly false, and it's meant to twist and ignite hatred in old white people towards younger left ethnic individuals, anyone who might be protesting because they're thinking, I fought a war for this, but that's not what's going on here.
It's not what's going on. It gets twisted, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and that's fake news. But
that's a great point. That's a great point. Thank you for answering that. Well, Thank you for popping in, Wayne. We need to get you on the show.
Yeah, no worries. Are we live? I thought we were not live.
No, we are live.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She also didn't tell you about the time I had a story that got killed
Yes, he did, but I didn't have a
purposely. You never have. I know.
We'll
Yes.
save that till you get in here.
Yes.
Right. Don't
Look at
interview
her.
me.
Are you shooing him
It's a
away,
Sue show.
Sue? Did you just do this?
No.
She's like, oh,
Bye.
oh. Bye,
After the
Wayne.
show, I'm going to go back to watching.
Okay, thank you. So that was a pleasant surprise. I'm glad he stopped in.
Oh man.
So you guys have a lot in common. So Sue, do you run your stories past Wayne when you've written them and say, honey, is this ready to go? What do you think?
Some of the bigger ones I have actually, just to have him give me an opinion, because I mean, journalism, you rely on other people to say, hey, what did I miss? I mean, if you're a good journalist, you rely on your editors and,
Right.
you know, maybe coworkers, because it's, you know, you want a balance. You make sure that all the questions are answered. I mean,
Right.
What did I forget? Because you want to be able to say, so that a reader won't say, hey, but you didn't answer this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to have a collaborative effort, because
I get it. So Sue, what story stands out to you as say, let's say, your most memorable story?
you know, there's been so many, because you know, I like the ones, you know, where I've been able to, I think, that can have a like the Buffalo Wild Wings, where I was able to talk to the person. There's also I like talking just to individuals, like in like town, like I talked to a lady that had been nursing for, she was like, technically she could have been retired, but nursing at like age 70. And
No, wait a minute. Nursing, as in?
like, no, not nursing, but she was a nurse.
I was like, wow, that is a story. She's still nursing the baby at 70? Wow.
She was
What's her
working
number?
as a nurse.
Huh?
She was working as a nurse, and she was like in her, she was working, and then she was working at like a retirement community.
Mm,
And she was working with people that were younger than she was.
that's so interesting. And yes. I have a coaching client that's like that. She's 78 and people think she's 50. It's really incredible. Yeah. So how about this? Let's talk about what's been going on around the world here lately. And I just want your opinion. I get it. I mean, I'm not asking you to lay down the holy grail when it comes to this, but why do you think it is? And what do you feel when you see stories or hear stories like the George Floyd thing? And because you talk to other reporters that are right in the city, I'm sure, that are on the same team with you at the bigger newspapers. And we all know that these things happen on a daily basis, or they're very, they're not so isolated as when one story is blown up and this and the other. What can we do, Sue? How do you feel about when you read that, George Floyd is just the face of many?
Right. Well, Sandra Bland was from Naperville. I mean, that's kind of the same kind of thing. So, and that was how many years ago? What did we learn from that? Well, yeah, we got in, we talked about it, and then, it was gone. The question is how, these cases come up, every year, every couple of years. People get incensed, they do something, and then are we at the point yet?
It withers on the vine. It just dies.
Right. Are we that this is going to be sustained? People's reactions. Are we going to be able to make change? The question, I don't know. It seems like this is also driven by young people who are getting very active. I think ever since the shooting down in Florida at the school, those students were able to get show that they could get their voice heard, and things seemed to change started to change.
Right.
After that, if you look at like the last election, how the shift in Congress went.
Right.
So but what's going to happen now? Can that change or demand cause for change? Well, I guess
So,
it's up to see.
It is. It will. Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you: do you feel that? Well, how do you feel when you? Let me rephrase this, because I remember at the beginning, one of the things in our household was we knew that, my husband, I don't know if you know this, but my husband Brian is a therapist, and so we decided we needed to really monitor our intake of news, because there were so many different things depending on which channel you were watching from. So what we've done, and we still do it here now, is we only watch the 10 o'clock news. We only watch the first 15 or 20 minutes, because all your top stories are going to come in, and it's at the end of the day, and we rotate it. One day he watches, the next day I watch, and then we debrief the other. Because, so how do you feel, and how do you turn off your filter for intaking, because you're constantly sniffing for stories,
Well, and you got to know what are the hot buttons. So it's hard, I try to read different sources. I try to read, get bits from different things, so I don't feel like, so I can understand everyone's perspective and be able to see what that kind of, what is important, and what are the issues, and be able to try to look at it from a lens of like, okay, so this person sees it this way. I mean,
yeah.
The rule is that you can have an accident and different, what this person will see it one way and this person will see it another.
Yeah, another totally different way. Absolutely right.
Right. And one could see that, oh, well, it was so-and-so, caused the accident. And this person would say, oh, well, no, the other person caused the accident.
Right.
So
you have to write objectively.
Right. So, but you can bring both perspectives into the story. Hey, this person said this and this person said this. And you leave the reader up to that. But I need to watch and read different sources so I can understand what those two people are talking about.
Have you ever been ashamed of a newspaper that you've worked for because of something they've printed? Because don't people that when they read something in one of the papers you write for, they kind of think it's you.
Oh, yeah. Well,
your paper. What's Sue?
Right.
So really, does that happen?
And here's the thing: is that people don't understand the difference between opinion and a news story. They assume everything's the same. So you have like a writer who writes an opinion piece, or maybe is a columnist. They're given more leeway in writing and kind of can put their personal opinions and kind of philosophies in.
Well, that's a good lead in. Let's talk about this. So, like there's always a thing about, they say, what is it? I can never get it right. MSNBC is what?
Right.
Republican or Democratic? Which one?
They're Democrats.
Democrat. And then the other one is what?
Liberal. Fox tends to be more right.
Okay. So, are there newspapers that write from a certain perspective and expect all of the people there to report from that same perspective? Because I was wondering, MSNBC, I'm sure that everybody that works at MSNBC cannot think that way. There's got to be somebody that's on the other side of the aisle, but why would you want to work there I don't, you know what I'm saying? So how's that work in the newspaper business?
But we say that is because most of the pundits that they get on there, or the the MSNBC or Fox, the people who are talking, the talking head people, lean that way. And there are newspapers that have, I mean, just like in broadcast, you have leanings. There are, but for most journalists who are, I would say there probably is not that. They try not to do that, so you can't say, "Oh, that person." I've been accused of both. So which is good for me.
Okay, there it is. Ding, there's the answer. She's been accused of both. I knew we'd get there. I knew, just give her a minute. We'll get there. So Sue, wow. Is there anything, have you ever had regrets about being a writer and wished you had done something else? Or has it pretty much given you the joy that you anticipated? Or is it the kind of thing, the joy level is on you? It's up to you. You either make it happen or you don't.
I think it has to do with how much you want to put into it. Yeah. I mean, I think any profession that you have, it's what if you think, if this is what your direction you want to pursue, you need to find that joy. And if that is no longer there, maybe you should go look for something else.
Right.
I mean, I've gotten out of journalism not because I wanted to, but because of through attrition and layoffs and things like that. I got forced out a little bit at different points.
Well, newspapers have had to change over the years. I mean, some towns don't even have them anymore. They just have an online thing. Yeah. And they've changed. I remember the town I grew up in, Michigan, the newspaper was like this wide before. Now it's like this. And it's weird because it's like long, you know what I mean? And it's like there's nothing there.
Right. And that's just the nature of the
way it's changed.
It's not just changing and advertising and where advertisers are spending their money. I mean, we rely on advertising and subscriptions.
So where do you see the world of journalism going in this new normal? And earlier, this is a two-parter, and earlier at the top of the hour, I don't know if you remember or not, but you kind of alluded or outright said, that you would, if you were starting now or someone young was starting now and thinking they wanted to go into this field, they may want to think about that a little deeper. And why? So talk about that. Why would you? It almost sounds like you're saying you might want to make this your backup or something. Why is that?
Well, just because the corporations are buying newspapers and they're kind of gutting them. They're getting rid of the journalism and just kind of
replacing it with sensationalism and commercialism.
A little bit, or just replacing it with bloggers and things, or just cutting back on journalists and the work that they do, and just
so somebody might ask, what's the difference? What's the difference between a blogger and a journalist?
Well, in some cases, there is nothing, but a lot of times it's the amount of time and energy that. I mean, journalists are trained to dig and look for and answer all those questions.
To get to the truth.
Right.
Verify your sources, all that stuff. And a blogger is really opinionated in a lot of ways, wouldn't you say?
Correct. Yes. Okay. I mean, they're kind of writing from their perspective of where they are. I mean, they might talk to a person, but are they going to talk to both sides of the issue?
So that sounds pretty dangerous to me. That our news sources are replacing true journalists with more of a blogger attitude mentality, and we don't know that they're swapping it out.
Yeah,
I mean that's dangerous.
It is very dangerous. So, which is why we've kind of we've started a union just to kind of make sure that the Chicago Tribune understands the importance of this, that we don't want to have this other kind of journalism be a part of what, we stand for, what, when we're kind of backing up and kind of reorganizing and making sure that we're paid for what we do. The other thing is that, they're cutting back on how much you want to pay journalists.
Yeah.
And, we do a job. And if you want quality work, you need to pay people.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember the name of it, but I've seen the ad for it. I think I might actually sign up for it, subscribe to it. I've noticed some true newspapers are starting independently. Some that say they have the mindset of what you're speaking of, traditional journalism, almost like an underground newspaper that says, listen, here's what they were saying, and here's what we said. Now look at what the reality is today. Who was telling you the truth? And they, in their commercials, every time I see one on my page, it's showing something where they go, 2 years ago we said this while they said that. Now who you want to believe? And so they say that's why we are a truth-telling newspaper with real journalists. They really push that. So do you feel that, in your opinion, is it possible that true journalism will go the way of underground? Because the powers that be, they always are going to manipulate something that can control the mass population. And what better way than the news?
Oh, well, and that's the big concern, is that, journalists are going to question whatever the person, whoever the leader is at the time, whether it's the mayor or whether it's the president or and somewhere in between, or school board. I mean, you're going to question, hey, what was the reason that you said this, or why did you do it? And that, I think, when we get for local journalism, that's critical. Once again, I'm going to throw the local journalism, because, what is your opinion that your school board thinks? What does your mayor think? I mean, those park districts, they're using your tax money from your property taxes. And if they're not, you don't think that they're using it, but who's going to be the watchdog to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing?
Absolutely.
I think the watchdog aspect is what, we try to promote.
Speaking of, okay, great segue, because that ties right into my next question. As we round the final lap of this interview, for those of you that have kind of snuck in through the back door of the slider, we're here today on Monday's episode of Bathrobe Moments with my guest, Suzanne Baker, who is a staff writer for a couple newspapers here in the Chicago Tribune and the Naperville Sun, both owned together. So, and we're talking about all things news, fake, real, and everything in between. So, Sue, what about this? How important then, based on what you just said, how important would you say letters to the editor are?
Oh, they're critical.
Talk about that, because it's a dying thing.
I know. It really is, because people are no longer, they want to put their opinions on social media now. This is what everybody does. But letters to the editor are basically, you say the same thing, but you gotta have to stand behind it, because your name is, underneath, and
And why do you feel people don't write? Don't do so. A letter to the editor is important, and I know this because I've written them. I don't think I've ever had one published though. Now that I think about it. But I wrote it, which meant something to me. I did have one end up in Purely Naperville that I wrote about that. I did have one end up in there, if you consider that a newspaper. And do you? Are those little town newspapers, not meaning the one I just mentioned, but just in general, because all towns have them. Those ones you see in the grocery store.
It's more like a newsletter kind of, I would say. Some of those are more newslettery. it depends on what format.
Okay, I get it. So
Yeah.
back to the letters to the editor. What, I mean, a lot of people think they're wasting their time, no one's going to read it. But they
No,
really
I
do
think a
make
lot
their
of-
way to the editor, right?
Oh, yes.
Or is there somebody in between who decides which ones get to the editor?
These days, there aren't that many people.
Oh, working in there.
Our staff is, for the Naperville Sun, there's like 3 of us, basically. 2 reporters and an editor. So the editor gets all the letters to the editor because, she's the one that has to get them in. So,
Right.
okay.
Okay. I got a fun question.
It
Go
gives
ahead.
a perspective of what people in the community are saying and what they're concerned about. It gives, whatever the hot issue button.
You know what I used to love about it was that, apologies and things like that and letters to the editor. When they would show letters to the editor, I was shocked at how many times it would be something that you think they'd want to hide, the newspaper. But they were vulnerable and they would say, you know what? That's a great point. Thank you for blah, blah, blah. And I always appreciated when I would see something like that. It helped me invest more trust into the newspaper. So I want to ask you that. Oh, here's a fun question. Did you ever write a story on a regular typewriter?
Ooh, I think.
Don't tell me you've never worked on an IBM's Electric.
Oh no, back in college, yes.
Yeah, remember in the little ball thing, and it would be like, it just felt like you were doing something. I mean, that's what it's a different experience than computer keyboards. I'm just saying, and then you go and rip the page out.
Right. There was a time that we had. Okay, so I worked when they were just like those big monitors and with the green. I just let my computer went blank.
Oh,
sorry.
That's okay.
My those big, where the green letters.
Sure. Yeah, the desktop monitors.
Yeah, those big ugly things
Yes. So, do you ever, when you dreamed of being a reporter, did you picture the old newsroom where all the desks were in an open bay and the writers were there and it was like stacks of stuff all over everybody's desk and they type and rip it out and get this in the paper today.
Copy boy.
Right. So, that was a real world. News was
it
key.
wasn't really that long ago, actually.
I know.
Where you have people with the stacks of papers and the guy smoking in the newsroom and the editor with the,
and journalists would do anything to get the story.
Oh, well, right.
Well,
they still kind of do, but
they still kind of do. So is anything new on the horizon for Sue? What can we expect over the next year or so as you move forward as a journalist into this new normal?
We go day by day because we never know if, our paper is going to be sold or, they just decide, hey, you know what? It's not going to be, we don't really need our newspaper local because, we're not making enough money to be sustainable.
Kind of sad, isn't it?
Yeah. So we kind of go
is.
day by day and maybe they'll just decide, hey, we'll just get rid of another reporter or, so that.
Right. Well, so my final question is this. Do you feel that it's possible that we will, how do you feel? Do you think we'll ever go back to the way things were? Or do you think that lifestyle is completely a thing of the past?
It'll be, I don't know.
Jury's still out?
I think the print journalism, I don't know, the people who want to be able to read a newspaper, a physical hard copy is going away.
Yeah. Poor little newspaper routes and stuff. Those little, I had one.
Right.
I had a paper route,
Kids don't have paper routes anymore.
They don't want them. Right. I know.
Right. And
adults driving around.
Right. they drive around and they
That's
have
crazy.
multiple newspapers that they throw
Right,
out.
right. Well, Sue, doggone it, this hour flew by. We had a